She stood in the rain with 3 children clinging to her legs. No one would hire her. No one would rent to her. Her own people had thrown her out, the alien mother had nothing left. Then a human farmer pulled up in a rusty truck and said 5 words that would change 2 worlds forever. Your kids need a home. What happened next broke every rule in the galaxy. It challenged laws that had stood for centuries. And it proved something the universe wasn't ready to admit. Sometimes the most alien thing in the cosmos is compassion. This is the story of Sarah, a Kethran mother rejected by her own kind for marrying outside her species. This is the story of Marcus, a human widower who lost everything except his daughter and his farm. And this is the story of how 4 broken people became the family that rewrote the rules between 2 civilizations. But here's what nobody talks about. The truth behind their meeting wasn't random. The laws that tried to tear them apart weren't just cruel. They were hiding something bigger. In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover why Sarah was really exiled. You'll learn what Marcus saw in his daughter's eyes that made him stop his truck that rainy night. And you'll understand why their simple act of kindness became the most dangerous thing in the sector. The governments tried to stop them. The media tried to shame them. Even their own communities turned against them. They built a family anyway. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The year is 2247. Humans have been part of the galactic community for 60 years, but integration doesn't mean acceptance. The galaxy runs on rules. Strict ones. Species stay with species. Colonies remain separate. Intermarriage is legal but socially unthinkable. Mixed families are rare, whispered about, quietly discouraged. The Kethrans are an insectoid species from the Deneb sector. They value collective harmony above everything. Individual choice comes second. When a Kethran marries outside their species, they're not just breaking tradition. They're considered contaminated. Sarah made that choice 6 years ago. She married a human colonist named David. They had 3 children together. 2 daughters and a son. Beautiful kids with features from both worlds. Then David died in a mining accident. Everything fell apart. Her family on Kethros disowned her. The community council revoked her housing rights. Even the neighbors who'd smiled at her for years stopped making eye contact. Within 3 months, she lost her home, her job, and every support system she'd ever known. Why? Because without a human spouse, she was just an alien raising half-human children. The Kethrans didn't want her back. And the human colony administrators said her visa was dependent on her marriage. She fell through the cracks between 2 worlds. Marcus Webb was living his own quiet tragedy on Earth. 6 months earlier, his wife Emma had died from a sudden illness. She left behind Marcus and their 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The farm they'd built together. And a massive hole where the future used to be. Marcus threw himself into work. 16-hour days. Fixing equipment. Tending crops. Anything to avoid the empty bedroom and the silence at breakfast. But Lily was drowning. She barely spoke anymore. Her grades collapsed. She'd started talking about, when Mom comes back. Marcus knew his daughter was breaking. He knew he was failing her. But he didn't know how to fix it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about grief. It makes you see things differently. Marcus started noticing the broken people around him. The struggling families. The ones everyone else ignored. And one rainy November evening crushed her anyway. The human colony administrators told her that widow benefits only applied to human widows. The Kethran embassy said she'd forfeited citizenship by marrying out species. Both governments agreed the children were complicated cases and would need to be processed. Processed meant separated. Foster care. Different species agencies. The kids would be split up. Sarah had been living in her vehicle until it got repossessed. Then came the shelters. Then the streets. She'd sold everything she owned. Her engineering tablet. Her wedding ring. The blanket her grandmother had made. She'd kept her children together. That was all she had left. Marcus asked her what she needed. She said a job and a place to stay. Just for a few weeks until she could get back on her feet. He should have said no. He barely knew her. His farm was struggling. He had his own daughter to worry about. Instead, he said something that surprised both of them. I've got a cottage out back. Used to be for farm hands. It's not much, but it's dry and warm. You can stay there. No rent. Help me with the harvest and we'll call it even. Sarah stared at him. Why would you do this? Marcus looked at Lily. Then at the three exhausted alien children. Because your kids need a home. And mine needs a mother figure. Maybe we can help each other. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even particularly kind by his standards. It was just practical, but in the galactic community, it was revolutionary. Within 48 hours, the Colonial Welfare Office got involved. A social worker showed up asking why Marcus had an unregistered alien family on his property. Was this trafficking? Exploitation? Some kind of labor scheme? Marcus showed them the cottage. The contracts he'd drawn up. The fair wages he was paying Sarah for farm work. The social worker wasn't satisfied. Crushed her anyway. The human colony administrators told her that widow benefits only applied to human widows. The Kethrin embassy said she'd forfeited citizenship by marrying out species. Both governments agreed the children were complicated cases and would need to be processed. Processed meant separated. Foster care. Different species agencies. The kids would be split up. Sarah had been living in her vehicle until it got repossessed. Then came the shelters. Then the streets. She'd sold everything she owned. Her engineering tablet. Her wedding ring. The blanket her grandmother had made. She'd kept her children together. That was all she had left. Marcus asked her what she needed. She said a job and a place to stay. Just for a few weeks until she could get back on her feet. He should have said no. He barely knew her. His farm was struggling. He had his own daughter to worry about. Instead, he said something that surprised both of them. I've got a cottage out back. Used to be for farm hands. It's not much, but it's dry and warm. You can stay there. No rent. Help me with the harvest and we'll call it even. Sarah stared at him. Why would you do this? Marcus looked at Lily. Then at the three exhausted alien children. Because your kids need a home. And mine needs a mother figure. Maybe we can help each other. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even particularly kind by his standards. It was just practical, but in the galactic community, it was revolutionary. Within 48 hours, the Colonial Welfare Office got involved. A social worker showed up asking why Marcus had an unregistered alien family on his property. Was this trafficking? Exploitation? Some kind of labor scheme? Marcus showed them the cottage. The contracts he'd drawn up. The fair wages he was paying Sarah for farm work. The social worker wasn't satisfied. She started talking about proper channels and immigration status and child welfare investigations. That's when Marcus made his first truly radical decision. He called a lawyer. Not a colonial administrator. Not a government mediator. A private human rights attorney who specialized in interspecies family law. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen. And she told Marcus something that changed the game. What you're doing isn't illegal. But it's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. Are you ready for that? Marcus looked at Lily playing in the yard with Mira and Ren. His daughter was laughing. Actually laughing. For the first time in 6 months. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. The first month was harder than anyone expected. Lily struggled with jealousy. She'd wanted siblings, sure. But now Dad was spending time with other kids. Fixing Ren's broken toy. Helping Mira with homework. Teaching Kira to feed the chickens. Sarah was terrified of overstepping. This wasn't her home. These weren't her resources. She worked 18-hour days trying to prove her worth. Harvesting. Repairing equipment. Cooking meals. Anything to justify the space she was taking up. The kids fought. Ren and Lily argued over everything. Mira was angry at the world and took it out on everyone. Kira had nightmares every night and would only let Sarah comfort her. Marcus was exhausted. He'd thought adding help would make things easier. Instead, he had 4 traumatized children and 1 terrified mother, all trying to survive in close quarters. But something unexpected started happening. Lily noticed that Mira never asked for anything. Not food. Not clothes. Not even a blanket when she was cold. So Lily started leaving things in Mira's room. A stuffed animal. A warm sweater. A book she thought Mira might like. Mira didn't say thank you. But she stopped slamming doors. Sarah saw Marcus struggling to braid Lily's hair one morning. His big farmer hands fumbling with the elastic. So she quietly stepped in and fixed it. Made it pretty. Added a ribbon. Lily looked in the mirror and smiled. Mom used to do it like this. Sarah's breath caught. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's okay, Lily said. I like it. Ren helped Marcus fix the tractor one afternoon. The kid was only 6 but had his mother's engineering brain. He spotted the loose connection Marcus had been hunting for an hour. Marcus ruffled his hair. Good eye, buddy. Ren beamed. He'd never had a dad call him buddy before. The legal battles started in week 6. The colonial administration filed a formal complaint. They claimed Marcus was violating immigration law by harboring undocumented aliens. They demanded Sarah and the children report to processing centers. Dr. Chen fought back. She argued that Sarah had legal right to remain as a surviving spouse. She produced documents proving the children were citizens by birth. She showed that the colony had violated its own protocols by denying them benefits. The administration didn't care about legal arguments. They cared about precedent. If Marcus succeeded, it would open the floodgates. Dozens of mixed families in legal limbo might demand the same treatment. The system couldn't handle that. So they had to make an example. They sent inspectors. Health and safety violations. Zoning complaints. Suddenly Marcus's farm was being audited for every possible infraction. The neighbors started talking. Some were supportive. Most weren't. They didn't like aliens getting special treatment. They didn't like their tax dollars going to help those people. Someone spray-painted "Species Traitor" on Marcus's barn. Someone else called Child Protective Services claiming the alien children were malnourished. Lily came home from school crying. Kids were saying her dad was trying to replace her real mom with a bug. Marcus sat her down that night. Do you want them to leave? Lily was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that floored him. No. Mira needs us. She told me her dad used to sing to her every night. Now nobody does. Can you sing to her, Daddy? I don't know any Catherine songs, sweetie. Then teach her our songs. That night, Marcus knocked on Myra's door. The 11-year-old looked at him suspiciously. Your sister said you like songs before bed. Myra's antennae flattened. A sign of embarrassment. That's baby stuff. My daughter still likes them. Maybe you could help me remember the words. I always forget the second verse. It was a transparent excuse. But Mira followed him to Lily's room. And when Marcus started singing an old earth lullaby, both girls joined in. Sarah heard it from the kitchen. She sat down at the table and cried. The breaking point came on Christmas Eve. Marcus had decorated the farm. Lights on the house. What do you think? She looked at her children playing in the yard. Kira was teaching Lily a Catherine hand game. Ren and Mira were building a fort. They were happy. Actually, genuinely happy. I think we fight, Sarah said. They filed the adoption paperwork in January. By February, it was galactic news. The headlines were brutal. Human farmer attempts unprecedented cross-species adoption. Is this family building or cultural erasure? The case that could reshape galactic integration laws. The Catherine Embassy issued a statement condemning the adoption. They claimed Marcus was trying to erase the children's cultural identity. They argued that Catherine children should be raised in Catherine communities, never mind that those same communities had rejected these specific children. The Human Colonist Association wasn't much better. They argued that accepting alien children into human families would undermine social cohesion. That it sent the wrong message about human values. The court hearings were vicious. Prosecution lawyers questioned Marcus's motives. Was this about labor? Tax benefits? Some kind of savior complex? They questioned Sarah's fitness as a mother. If she couldn't provide for her children alone, should she have custody at all? They even questioned the children. Brought them into cold, sterile rooms and asked if they felt safe. If they understood what was happening. If they wanted this. Mira, at 11 years old, looked the prosecutor in the eye and said, Marcus sings to me. He makes me breakfast. He fixed my tablet when it broke. What else should a dad do? The courtroom went silent. The prosecutor tried again. But don't you miss your Catherine community? Your culture? My community threw us out, Mira said flatly. Marcus didn't. The case dragged on for 4 months. During that time, something remarkable happened. Other families started coming forward. A human woman married to a Zentari man, trying to adopt his orphaned nephew. A mixed couple with biological children who wanted to foster. A widow like Sarah, trapped in legal limbo, dozens of families. All facing the same broken system. All watching Marcus and Sarah's case. The media narrative started shifting. People saw the actual family. Not theoretical integration policies. Not abstract cultural concerns. But real kids who were thriving. Lily did an interview with her school paper. The video went viral. She said, "Mira is my sister. I don't care what the government says. She's my sister." Public opinion started turning. Slowly. But it turned. The opposition got desperate. They brought in experts claiming that cross-species households were psychologically damaging. That human and Catherine child development was too different. That the children would suffer identity crises. Dr. Chen brought in her own experts. Developmental psychologists. Integration specialists. And most powerfully, adult children from mixed-species households. One witness, a 30-year-old woman with a human mother and Drexian father, testified about growing up between cultures. "Yes, it was complicated. Yes, I struggled sometimes. But I wouldn't trade my family for anything. Love doesn't need to match biology." The judge was a stern woman named Elizabeth Park. She'd been on the bench for 30 years. She'd seen every kind of custody case. But she'd never seen anything like this. In the final hearing, she asked to speak to all 4 children together. No lawyers. No cameras. Just her, Marcus, Sarah, and the kids. She asked them simple questions. What makes a family? What makes a home? What makes someone a parent? Kira, now 7 and more confident, said, "A family is people who take care of each other. Even when it's hard." Ren said, "A home is where people want you. Not where they have to keep you." Mira said, "A parent is someone who shows up. Every day. Even when you're difficult." Lily said, "A family is people who choose each other." Judge Park was quiet for a long time. Then she asked Marcus and Sarah one question. "Are you prepared for this to be forever? Not just until it's convenient. Not until it gets hard. Forever." Marcus and Sarah looked at each other. Then they both said yes. 3 weeks later, Judge Park issued her ruling. She approved the adoption. All of it. Marcus would legally adopt Ren, Mira, and Kira. Sarah would have permanent residency as co-guardian. The family would be recognized as a legal unit under both human and Catherine law. Her written opinion was 40 pages long. But one paragraph became famous. "The law exists to serve families, not to prevent them. If our legal structures cannot accommodate love, commitment, and genuine care simply because it crosses species lines, then our structures are failures. These children have a home. These parents have chosen each other and their children. This court will not tear apart what circumstance and courage have built." The courtroom erupted. Half cheering. Half outraged. Marcus and Sarah just held their children, but here's what the media didn't report. The real reason the ruling was so groundbreaking: Judge Park had included a clause that changed everything. She ruled that any mixed family in legal limbo could cite this case as precedent. That the colonial administration had to establish clear pathways for cross-species adoption and mixed family recognition. She'd just rewritten integration law. With one case. One family. So what does all this mean for us today? The Webb-Sarah household, as they were now legally known, became the first officially recognized cross-species adoptive family in the sector. Within 6 months, 43 other families filed similar adoption cases. By the end of the year, it was over 200. The legal infrastructure had to change. Colonial administrations had to hire specialists in interspecies family law. Courts had to develop new protocols. Social workers had to get training in cross-cultural childcare. The resistance didn't disappear. But it couldn't stop what had started. Here's why this matters. The galaxy had spent decades talking about integration in abstract terms. Trade agreements. Diplomatic protocols. Cultural exchange programs, but integration doesn't happen in government buildings. It happens at dinner tables. In living rooms. In families. Marcus and Sarah proved that the hardest boundaries to cross aren't between planets. They're between people. And those boundaries aren't biological. They're social, legal, cultural, and they can be changed. Life on the farm settled into a new normal. Mira started teaching Marcus basic Catherine customs. Sarah learned human holiday traditions. The kids became genuinely bilingual, switching between languages mid-sentence. Ren, it turned out, was a mechanical genius. By age 8, he was helping Marcus design more efficient irrigation systems. By 10, he had a provisional patent. Mira became a fierce advocate. She started a support group for kids from mixed families. She gave talks at schools about her experience. She was angry and brilliant and determined to make sure no other kid got thrown away like she had been. Kira was the youngest, so her memories of the before times faded fastest. She grew up thinking it was normal to have a Catherine mom and a human dad. She didn't understand why anyone would think it was strange. Lily thrived. Having siblings gave her purpose beyond her grief. She became the bridge builder. The translator. The one who could explain human culture to her alien siblings and alien culture to her human friends. Sarah and Marcus's relationship evolved slowly. They were partners first. Co-parents. Friends. The romantic element came later, carefully, with lots of awkward conversations about what they both wanted. They got married 3 years after the adoption. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Both human and Catherine traditions mixed together. By that point, nobody was surprised. The farm became a kind of haven. Other mixed families would visit. Kids who'd been rejected by their communities found acceptance there. Sarah started a consulting business helping other cross-species families navigate the legal system. Marcus expanded the farm. Hired more workers. Some human. Some alien. Built a community based on competence and kindness rather than species. The colonial administration that had fought them so hard eventually held them up as an integration success story. Politicians who'd condemned them now posed for photos with them. Marcus and Sarah found that darkly funny. But here's the deeper lesson. They didn't set out to change the world. They just tried to take care of 4 broken children. And in doing that, in building one imperfect family, they proved something the galaxy needed to see. Love doesn't require biological similarity. Family doesn't require genetic connection. Home doesn't require everyone to look the same. Those things require choice. Commitment. Showing up every day even when it's hard. The opposition argued that cross-species families would confuse children. That kids need cultural consistency. That mixing traditions would leave them lost. They were wrong. The Websera children weren't lost. They were rich. Rich in language. Rich in tradition. Rich in perspective. They could navigate human and Catherine spaces equally well. They understood both cultures from the inside. They weren't confused. They were complex. Studies started coming out years later. Children from mixed-species households showed higher emotional intelligence. Better conflict resolution skills. More adaptability. Lower rates of prejudice, not because mixing species was inherently superior, but because these families had to be intentional. They had to communicate clearly. They had to respect differences. They had to work harder at understanding each other, and that work paid off. The educational system started changing. Schools began teaching interspecies communication. Cultural competency became a standard part of curriculum. Mixed-species playgroups became common. The next generation was growing up in a galaxy that the Websera family had helped reshape. But it wasn't perfect. Prejudice didn't disappear. Some communities remained closed. Some families still rejected their own members for crossing species lines. Mira, now a young adult, gave an interview about this. She said something profound. My family isn't special because we're perfect. We're special because we're possible. Every time someone says cross-species families can't work, we exist. That's enough. The legal precedent from their case got cited in hundreds of subsequent rulings. Immigration law. Custody disputes. Inheritance cases. Citizenship applications. Judge Park's decision became a cornerstone of modern integration law. Marcus retired from farming eventually. Turned the land over to Ren, who'd become an agricultural engineer. But he and Sarah stayed in the cottage. The same one where Sarah and her children had first found refuge. They liked reminding themselves where they'd started. Lily became a social worker specializing in mixed-species foster care. Mira went into law, focusing on family rights. Kira became a teacher in an integrated school. Ren revolutionized farm technology and made it freely available to struggling colonies. The family that wasn't supposed to exist raised children who changed their fields. Here's what the story really shows. She stood in the rain with 3 children clinging to her legs. No one would hire her. No one would rent to her. Her own people had thrown her out. The alien mother had nothing left. Then a human farmer pulled up in a rusty truck and said 5 words that would change 2 worlds forever. Your kids need a home. What happened next broke every rule in the galaxy. It challenged laws that had stood for centuries. And it proved something the universe wasn't ready to admit. Sometimes the most alien thing in the cosmos is compassion. This is the story of Sarah, a Kethran mother rejected by her own kind for marrying outside her species. This is the story of Marcus, a human widower who lost everything except his daughter and his farm. And this is the story of how 4 broken people became the family that rewrote the rules between 2 civilizations. But here's what nobody talks about. The truth behind their meeting wasn't random. The laws that tried to tear them apart weren't just cruel. They were hiding something bigger. In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover why Sarah was really exiled. You'll learn what Marcus saw in his daughter's eyes that made him stop his truck that rainy night. And you'll understand why their simple act of kindness became the most dangerous thing in the sector. The governments tried to stop them. The media tried to shame them. Even their own communities turned against them. They built a family anyway. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The year is 2247. Humans have been part of the galactic community for 60 years, but integration doesn't mean acceptance. The galaxy runs on rules. Strict ones. Species stay with species. Systems are made by people. And what people make, people can change. The rules that trapped Sarah weren't natural laws. They were policies. Written by people who assumed species should stay separate. People who valued order over compassion. Marcus didn't have power or influence. He was a struggling farmer. But he had something more important. He had the courage to say this is wrong and do something about it. One family can't fix systemic prejudice. But one family can prove it's breakable, and that's what the Webb-Sarah family did. They took a broken system and found a crack. Then they wedged themselves into that crack and refused to move. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. 20 years after the adoption, Marcus got a call from the Galactic Integration Council. They were establishing a new award for people who'd advanced cross-species understanding. They wanted to name it after him and Sarah. Marcus said no. He said if they wanted to honor someone, honor Judge Park. Or Dr. Chen. Or the dozens of other families who'd fought similar battles. We just took care of our kids, he told them. That's not heroic. That's basic. But Sarah disagreed. She convinced him to accept. Not for glory. But because visibility mattered. There are still families hiding, she said. Still children in limbo. Still parents too afraid to fight. If our story gives them courage, we accept. So they accepted. The ceremony was enormous. Representatives from 40 species. Media from across the sector. The Webb-Sarah children all attended. All adults now. All successful. All together. Mira gave the speech. She talked about the night they stood in the rain. The night Marcus stopped his truck. The night one man's simple kindness changed the trajectory of her life. My father, she said, and paused. My father's. My mother's. My siblings who don't share my DNA. They taught me that family is a verb. It's something you do. Every day. Sometimes every hour. The galaxy wanted us to fail. They wanted to prove that love has species requirements. That family needs biological compatibility. That different means incompatible. We proved them wrong by having breakfast together. By arguing over chores. By showing up to each other's school plays and work presentations and hard days. We proved them wrong by being boringly, mundanely, beautifully normal. The audience was silent. This award isn't really about integration policy. It's about what happens when you see someone in the rain and decide they matter. When you look at children who aren't yours and decide they could be. When you choose love over convenience and commitment over comfort. My fathers chose that. My mothers chose that. And because they did, thousands of families have followed. Later that night, the family gathered privately. All of them. Plus partners. Plus grandchildren now. A chaotic mix of species and ages and personalities. Kira's daughter, half Catherine and half human, sat on Marcus's lap. She had Sarah's antennae and Marcus's eyes. Impossible. Beautiful. Great Papa, tell the truck story, she demanded. Marcus had told this story 100 times. But he never got tired of it. It was raining, he began. And I saw the most beautiful family standing in the rain. As he talked, Sarah watched. 20 years. 2 decades of meals and arguments and laughter and tears and ordinary days that built into an extraordinary life. She caught Lily's eye. Lily, now a mother herself, smiled. She mouthed 2 words. Thank you. Sarah shook her head. She mouthed back, thank you. Because that was the secret nobody talked about. Marcus and Lily had saved Sarah's family. But Sarah and her children had saved them too. Grief had been drowning them. The empty space where Emma had been was consuming everything. Lily was disappearing into depression. Marcus was fading into exhausted numbness. Then came 3 alien children who needed everything. Who demanded presence and attention and care. Who forced Marcus and Lily to show up fully to life again. Healing wasn't pretty. It was messy and hard and sometimes backwards. But it happened. They saved each other. That's what the media never quite captured. The story wasn't about a hero saving victims. It was about broken people building something together. About finding family in unexpected places. About choosing each other when the world said they shouldn't. As the evening wound down, Marcus stood on the porch of the old cottage. The same porch where he and Sarah had first talked about making things permanent. Ren joined him. Now a successful engineer with his own company. Still wearing work boots and grease-stained pants. You ever regret it? Ren asked. Taking us in. Everything that came after. Marcus looked at him. This brilliant, kind man who called him Dad. Not once. Even when we were difficult. Especially then. That's when you needed us most. Ren was quiet. Then he said, I'm starting a scholarship fund. For kids from broken mixed-species families. I want to name it after you. Name it after your mother. Both of them. They did the real work. I'm naming it after all of you. The Websera Family Scholarship. Because you taught me that family is something you build. Not something you're born into. Marcus felt his throat tighten. 20 years and he still got emotional. Your mom would be proud, he said. Meaning David. Ren's biological father. I know, Ren said. But you should be proud too. You're my dad. He was my father. I'm lucky I got both. Inside, the grandchildren were running wild. Sarah was teaching them a traditional Catherine game. Lily was translating instructions. Mira was recording everything for a documentary she was making, Normal Family Chaos. Exactly what it should be. The story of the Websera family isn't really about laws or prejudice or integration policy. Those are the backdrop. The real story is simpler and more profound. It's about what happens when you choose love over fear. When you offer help instead of judgment. When you see someone in the rain and stop your truck. It's about building bridges one relationship at a time. One meal at a time. One hard conversation at a time. The galaxy changed because one family refused to accept that different meant impossible, and thousands of families followed. If this opened your eyes, so let's recap what we've learned. First, systemic prejudice isn't invincible. It's built on rules made by people. And what people build, people can change. Marcus and Sarah didn't have power or influence. But they had courage. And they had each other. That was enough to crack the system wide open. Second, family is a choice, not an accident of biology. The Websera children thrived not because mixing species is magic, but because their parents were intentional. They communicated. They respected differences. They showed up every day. That's what makes family work. Third, one act of kindness can ripple farther than you imagine. Marcus stopping his truck that rainy night seemed small. Basic decency. But it changed lives. Then it changed laws. Then it changed a culture. You never know which moment of compassion will become the moment that matters. Fourth, the real revolution happens at the dinner table. Governments talk about integration. But integration happens when families eat together. When kids play together. When parents help each other raise children who see past species to people, the Websera family didn't set out to be revolutionaries. They just tried to take care of each other. And in doing that simple thing, they proved what the galaxy needed to see. That love doesn't require matching DNA. That family doesn't require biological connection. That home is something you build together. Today, mixed species families are still fighting battles. Still facing prejudice. Still navigating systems that weren't designed for them. But they're not alone anymore. They have legal precedent. They have community. They have proof that it's possible, and they have the Websera story to remind them that every great change starts with one person deciding that the rules are wrong and refusing to obey them. Marcus Webb was just a farmer. Sarah was just a mother trying to protect her children. Neither of them thought they could change the galaxy, but they did. By being decent. By being consistent. By showing up every day to the hard work of building a family, the legacy continues. Schools now teach the Websera case in integration history classes. Law students study Judge Park's ruling. Social workers learn their methods for blending cultures in one household, but the real legacy isn't in textbooks. It's in the thousands of families who exist because this one family fought first. It's in the children who grow up thinking cross-species friendship is normal. It's in the communities that are richer because they welcome difference instead of rejecting it. Here's what I want you to take away from this story: you don't need power to make change. You need conviction. You need to see someone suffering and decide it matters more than your comfort.